Admitting that President Obama was born in the United States. He blamed Hillary Clinton for starting it all, which is not true. He congratulated himself for putting the issue to rest, which really is not true. What is true, however, is that in a very basic way, it is a flip-flop for Donald Trump. A 5-year-long, utterly bizarre, no basis in reality flip-flop, but a flip-flop nonetheless. And it's not the first. 360's Randy Kay reports.
Some might call it a flip-flop, others a softening. But whatever it is, Donald Trump seems to have changed his stance on rounding up millions of illegal immigrants and sending them packing. This is what he told MSNBC in November last year.
You're going to have a deportation force, and you're going to do it humanely.
But just last month, Trump sounded like the deportation force was no longer when he spoke with Anderson Cooper.
11 million who have not committed a crime.
There's
going to be a path to legalization. Is that right?
You know it's a process. You can't take 11 at one time and just say, boom, you're gone.
That's not the only time Trump has flip-flopped. On the very day Donald Trump announced his run for the White House, he made this bold statement about his objection to the Iraq War.
He said, don't hit Iraq because you're going to totally destabilize the Middle East.
But it turns out back in 2002, in his first public comments about the war, he told Howard Stern he was actually in favor of the war. Kinda. Listen.
Are you for invading Iraq?
Yeah, I guess so. I wish the first time it was done correctly.
On the issue of nukes, he told the New York Times in March that the biggest problem in the world is nuclear proliferation. Yet in that same interview, he also said he wouldn't object to South Korea and Japan getting nuclear weapons for protection against North Korea. Trump has also done a 180 on abortion. Listen to him on NBC back in 1999, at a time when he was considering a run for the White House.
Very pro-choice. I hate the concept of abortion. I hate it. I hate everything it stands for. I cringe when I listen to people debating the subject. But I just believe in choice.
In that same interview, Trump went on to say he'd also support a woman's right to late-term abortion. But that was then. On CNN in recent months, Trump made it clear he has, quote, evolved on the issue of abortion.
As you know, I'm pro-life. I've been pro-life for a long time. I am pro-life. Everybody knows I'm pro-life. As you know, I'm pro-life. And I was originally pro-choice.
Trump now wants to ban all abortions, except in the case of incest or rape, or if the mother's life is at risk. Trump has even done an about-face on Hillary Clinton. She and Bill Clinton were guests at Trump's wedding back in 2005. On Fox in 2012, he called her a terrific woman, saying she works really hard and does a good job. Now, facing Clinton in the general election, Trump is saying something very different.
A lying, crooked Hillary. Love to say. Because she is a liar. She's a bad person.
As Trump wrote in his book, The Art of the Deal, he never gets too attached to one deal or one approach. Seems that holds true for some of his policy positions, too. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.
All right, our thanks to Randy. Back now with the panel. Errol Louis, I want to start with you because the Clinton campaign is talking a lot about Donald Trump's statement today. In the flip-flop aspect of it, it is not necessarily what they're focused on here. How fertile of this is an issue for them now and going forward?
I don't think they're going to make much more out of it because honestly, first of all, they've got a target-rich environment, you could call it. They've got a lot of different things, a lot of differences that they want to contrast between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I think their polling would probably suggest something that we've all sort of seen over the last year, which is that people are not rushing to Donald Trump to the extent that they are because he's so fantastically consistent. That's not what they're looking for. He's pushing a lot of other different buttons, and there's a lot of dispute about which buttons he's pushing, and are some of them kind of the appeals to the worst in people's nature. But I haven't run into anybody on the campaign trail who said, I like Donald Trump because he's consistent. You know where he stands. It all fits together. It's philosophically rigorous. That's not the kind of candidate he is.
No, I'm just curious, though, what the Clinton campaign or how much they do intend to press the issue, the birther issue. Glenn Thrush, your old friend from Politico today, he noted something very interesting. He said he doesn't believe that white voters supporting Donald Trump are unaware of these positions, or unaware of his birther past. So why would him saying anything different about it or saying anything at all make any difference to the voters he already has?
Well, I actually don't think that Glenn was talking about white voters just backing Trump. I think he was talking about white voters in general. And so the question right now is both Clinton and Trump are appealing to a certain demographic of white voters, and that is where Trump needs to drive up the margin. That is where Clinton needs to drive up the margin on both sides. The Clinton campaign has tried for a while to press the case that and demonstrate ways where they would argue that Trump has shown bigoted statements or bigoted behavior and so forth, to try to express, to work on concerns that suburban voters and moderates have about voting for somebody who has been labeled a racist. The concern for Democrats, or the thing that is frustrating for Democrats, is that has not really taken hold despite the number of instances that Democrats have pointed to. And I think that's what Glenn was talking about. It's not really so much the diehard Trump supporters who really, I mean, he has had a base of support that has been with him this whole time. It's how does she peel off certain voters, and what is it going to take?
Man.
Well, it's also the Democrats need to keep the numbers of voters of color nailed to Hillary Clinton. She, in a lot of these polls, especially early on, he was getting 0% of the black vote, 1%.
Is Today mobilizing in that case?
Well, it's hard to know. There's a lot of chaff right now in the polling, so it's hard to know. But part of the Democratic Party strategy has to be to keep voters of color not just bolted to Hillary Clinton, but also passionate about coming out. And to the extent that there are voters who are not passionate about Hillary herself, saying, listen, the alternative is someone who has trafficked in bigotry is an important point. So whether or not these sort of more white swing voters come this way or that way, a big part of this is saying, hey, listen, don't let this guy off the mat when it comes to voters of color.
All right, Jeffrey Lord, disembodied Jeffrey Lord, is not with us in studio, but is with us in spirit.
Don, I want to
hang on.
Don, I want to say something here about this is important because this has not been mentioned today. Late today, Mediaite put up on the front page of their site tweets from James Asher, who is the former bureau chief of the McClatchy News Service. And Mr. Asher says in two tweets, I'll read part of one. Sid Blumenthal, longtime HRC buddy, told me in person, Obama born in Kenya. And in the second tweet, he says that Mr. Blumenthal asked him and asked McClatchy to investigate this. Now, if that is correct, then what we've got here today is a massive fraud. Is deceit like with the pneumonia
Jeffrey,
incident.
let me tell you what we know. Let me tell you what we know about this so far. James Asher from McClatchy did tweet that. CNN reached out to Sidney Blumenthal. Sidney Blumenthal said, this is false. CNN is also trying to reach the McClatchy.
Yeah,
hang on, Gene, let me finish. I'm not saying, look, I'm just being transparent about where we are in this story right now since you brought it up. CNN's also tried to contact James Asher to find out his side of the story. CNN also reached out to Clinton campaign staffers who say, to their knowledge at that time, Sidney Blumenthal did not work for the campaign. Yes, he's a friend of Hillary. Hey, Jeffrey, let me finish. I'm telling you what we know here. He did not work for the campaign, but yes, he is a friend of Hillary Clinton. At this point, we're looking into this further, but that is where that all is. And I want to put this to Maggie Haberman right now. The qualitative difference, even if you take this all, then it happened. Even if Sidney Blumenthal did do this, at this point we don't know. He denied it to CNN. But even if he did do that, is there equivalency between that and Donald Trump for 5 years talking about this?
There is not. I mean, if Sidney Blumenthal did that, then that is something that I suspect Hillary Clinton will get asked about. Sidney Blumenthal has denied it, but I saw that tweet as well and reached out to the author of the tweet and have not heard back. But it is not the same as a candidate saying frontally on stage, this is the big question, this is the issue. It's not at all, and Hillary Clinton herself never said it. That would be the equivalent.
It's also just weird that they keep saying, well, she did it first, so I can do it too. It's like, no, you're a grown man. This is not kindergarten. You can't just point to the other kid and say that they said it too. If it's wrong, if it shows bad judgment, it shows bad judgment. And pointing to some friend of a friend is not a good excuse.
All right, guys, hang on one second.
It's a political hack. It's not a person running for president. I think that's the most important point.
All right, guys, hang on. We have a lot more coming up. Hillary Clinton, not the only one weighing in on the Trump birther escapade today. For